Hey guys, super excited to be with you today, and today I'm here with my brother Daniel, and he is going to be showing us the Zymatic brewing system. It's a brewing system he uses around the house to brew some very delicious beer that I know myself and a lot of his friends enjoy on a daily basis. And he just wants to walk you through the process from recipe, brewing, to enjoying a pint, and see if you like the brewing system that he uses. It might be good for you. Alright, so we're on our way to the brew store, or what's it called?
Yeah, Hop City, it's a brew shop, beer store. It's good stuff.
Good stuff. So Hop City Brews, we gotta get some supplies for today. Today, we're gonna be learning how to brew with, what setup are you using today?
I'm going to use my Zymatic today, which is a automated system made by Pico Brew. It does 2.5 gallon batches, and it essentially is a wort making machine. You buy your own grains, I buy my own grains, put my recipe together, grind my grains, and you put it in the machine. You got some hop compartments, and when I build my recipe, it's online, and you hit the button and it runs through the cycle. It runs through the mash process, and it runs through the boil process, going into the corresponding hop cages as necessary, and then it creates your wort. And then of course you do what you need to do post, on the cold side with fermenting and cooling your wort to temperature to pitch your yeast. So it's a great little machine. I use it in conjunction with my main rig to do the smaller, more experimental batches, or when I just want to be lazy for a weekend or have too much going on, but I still want to get a batch brewed. It's been a wonderful machine. I love it. So we'll show you today a little bit about how it works and the pros and cons, and yeah, hope you enjoy. Alright, today we're going to do barrel-aged stout. I'm excited about this recipe. I just want to talk quickly about the recipe crafter of the Zymatic. It's not the best recipe crafter I've used. I use Beersmith for my main rig when I do full batch beers, and Beersmith is definitely a lot better of a recipe crafter, but this thing gets the job done. You can put your ingredients in, your hops in, of course your mash temperatures and time, your boil times, your hop additions, and all that good stuff. And it's pretty good of telling you what your results should be when it comes to original gravity, final gravity. It's pretty spot on for the most part. So again, I'm doing a barrel-aged stout. It's 10.7% alcohol. Real excited about that. Going to put these in bottles, actually, 22-ounce bottles, and let them age until my wedding in a few months. I usually keg my beers, but I think this will be fun to get them in bottles and bust them open on my wedding night. So this beer is going to have a base of 2 row. Everyone's familiar with that, imagine. We're going to do some Munich malts. We're going to do some Crystal 60, some roasted barley. We're going to do a little Carafa 2, tasty, and some chocolate malt. Love some chocolate malt. Let's give a little roasted barley a try. Look at that. That's pretty good. Here, Ethan, what do you want? There you go. All right. So, the other things, this is going to be I set this to be a 2.2 gallon beer, so I'm hoping to get 2 gallons into the fermenter, or actually into the bottles. And I'll tell you, so one of the limitations of the Zymatic is going to be, it usually does 2.5 gallons, and your step filter holds 9 pounds of grain. So for this beer, it's a really big beer, and I needed to do a couple of things. One, I lowered the batch size down a little bit, and then I'm going to add some corn sugar to the boil as well. And there's 2 reasons to add corn sugar for this beer. One of them is I want to dry the beer out a little bit, and you use sugar to dry beer out in the boil process. This beer, could be cloyingly sweet, and I don't want that, so I want that to finish a little drier. Also, I am using it in this time for the alcohol to give it a little bit of boost. I usually don't do that for alcohol purposes, but with the Zymatic, again, I'm limited to the 9 pound capacity, and I needed to give it a little bit of an oomph to get to that 10.7 that I wanted to be. But having said that, if you were doing a 9% beer, you could likely do that within the 9 pound capacity at 2.5 gallons without using sugar. So it does big beers. And this one's gonna be great. I'm using Williamette hops in 60 and 30 minute additions. and I am going to use Safe Ale 05. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with. I'm a liquid yeast guy mainly, but I like using this for stouts. It does a great job. It's really a great yeast. The IBU of this beer is 45, and IBU stands for International Bittering Units. It really speaks to the bitterness of a beer. Usually used more in IPAs and things like that when you get that big bitter bomb 100 IBU IPA, which I love. This is in the mid-range, and again, it's to balance some of the sweetness of a stout. Should be great. The SRM is 53. SRM is a color chart essentially, and tells you what color your beer is going to be. 53 is pitch black. Love it. Excited about pitch black stouts. I'm a big stout guy, so I'm real excited. Again, OG, we're shooting for 9.5. That's original gravity. Final gravity, we're shooting for 1.3 to give us that 10.7. And we're going to do a 60-minute boil on it. And the Zymatic, mashing wise, does really for a high efficiency mash. It does a step mash, and we can talk a little bit about that later. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take these grains, we're going to get them weighed out, and we're going to mill them, and we are going to move on to setting up the system and getting it ready to go. Everybody, we are going to put everything together and then put this guy into the machine. So this is what we do. Here's the step filter. This is the main kind of base of where you put your ingredients. You got some screens here, and this screen is going to go on the bottom of that front area here, like so. And then you got this screen, which is the hop compartment screen. We're going to put that down here, and then we're going to put the grains on top of this screen. So I'm going to take these grains and we're going to dump it right in the step filter. And what you want to do is you want to get this as level as possible. So just work with your hands and try to get this in the corners and just make it as level as you can. Don't pack it down. Just level it out. There we go. Try to get it out from the lip here. That's where your second screen is going to go. Take a look. See how level we are. It's looking good. Boom, boom, bang, da bang, da bang, boom. All right. So then you're going to take the top screen and you're going to set it right down on here. And then we're going to work on the hop compartment, I should say. Here are the little guys that you put the hops in. And you take this part facing towards you, put it down on top of that screen. So what it does is when this thing is going through its boil, so when it's going through just heating to temperature, the water actually goes in between this compartment and this compartment, and it circulates to get up to temperature. When it is going through the mash, it runs through here and comes out and it circulates through the mash. When you're at your boil, to get to boil temperature, again, it's in between. And then when you hit your 60-minute hop addition, which would be right here, the little swing arm that we'll show you later goes down into here, and that's where it recirculates through the boil. So it's recirculating through that hop cage. And then if you go to 30-minute addition, that arm swings here, goes into that 30-minute addition, which cascades into this one and back out for recirculation. It's a pretty ingenious design. They did a great job with it. So we got the grains in. We are only using 2 of the compartments. There's 4 that come with it. We're only using 2 because we're only doing 2 hop additions. So we are going to do, again, we're doing Willamette hops. 1 ounce at 60 minutes and 1 ounce at 30 minutes. So I'm just going to dump the hops right in the basket. just going to close it up here, get it nice and snug, and drop it right in that compartment. I'm going to do the same for the 30-minute edition. Right in the second compartment. Williamette. Williamette is a classic hop for stouts. It just has it's a low alpha acid, so it's not putting off a lot of the bittering, but it's just a great, it's a classic stout hop. I'm gonna drop that in the 30-minute basket, and that's done for the hop edition. So before I put this on, you want to make sure it's put on right, because it has all the holes for the recirculation. So again, when it's through this hole, it's recirculating through the mash. When it's through this hole, it's recirculating in between to get it up to temperature. And then you have the holes for the hop basket. So you got your 60-minute edition, your 30-minute, your 15, your 10, or whatever, however you set it. Now before I put this on, what's helpful, and I use 2 of these, sometimes people use a couple spoons, but I put these on overlapping, and this just prevents this screen, when it's mashing, sometimes that screen will float up, and sometimes you'll get some grains that kind of can pop up with it. So if you just put something like that on over it, it keeps that screen from popping up. And that's it. So now you take this thing, it's all ready to go, and we're going to slide it into the machine, and we'll show you that in a bit. Alright y'all, so we are going to put this step filter that we filled up with ingredients in the machine, talk a little bit about the setup, and we'll go from there. So here's the step filter. We have everything in. We're going to slide this right into the machine, get it to get in there. Nice. Alright, so here I have the appropriate amount of water. It tells you in the recipe crafter how much water you use for a recipe. So this was about 25 pounds of water. You can do it by gallons, but I like to be a little more precise and do it by measuring or weighing the water. Excuse me. So we're going to connect these hoses to the keg, and they go to the side of the machine there. And this thing essentially is it's for anti-foam. If this thing gets, as it's working, if it starts foaming up, you get a little anti-foam agent on this little pad and put it in here, and it just contains it in this little thing during brew. So you got this set up, and you got your water in here. I already did some water chemistry with it, do your appropriate water chemistry as well. What we're going to do, I'm going to set this up on a delayed timer start, which is a great feature about this thing. So I'm going to have this thing turn on about 3 a.m. So it will start brewing while I'm sleeping. When I get up, it'll be towards the end of the process, and I can then do what I need to do to cool the wort down into my fermenter, pitch the yeast, so on and so forth. So I love it. In that sense, once you get everything set up in here, you get everything going, I can do that delay start, and it will do so much of the work as I'm sleeping. So what will happen is, the first thing is it will get up to mash, the first mash temperature, so that the water flows through here, and I showed you before, it goes in between the two baskets, between the hops and the grain, and it goes through that loop, and it just gets up to temperature. The first in this step mash is 120 degrees. So once it gets to 120 degrees, it will then go through the grains, and it will flow through for however long, the 20 minutes or however long that step is, and then it will go back to raise it back to the temperature. So the liquid will go in and out throughout the process, and really try to make it as efficient as possible by getting those grains, all the sugars out of those grains. So that's what it's going to do, and then it's going to mash, and then it's going to go into the boil. It's going to get up to 207 degrees, which essentially is the boil for the Pico, and it will then start going through the hop cages and just looping through the boil. So all the water loops through this and maintains in the keg. Once it's done, we're going to take this thing out, and I'm going to use my chiller, and I'll show you what chiller I use to get it down to temperature. It's made specifically for these kegs, and we'll get it down to temperature. And you can either ferment right in the keg, so you can put a bubbler, take this off and put a bubbler right on and ferment in the keg. But I use this thing a little more often, so I put it into a separate fermenter, so I can have this available to brew again. So that's where we are. So we'll take a look at this screen, and it says delayed start. So we're going to go to delayed start, and then we're going to go to the recipe I want, which is barrel aged stout. There it is. So now it's telling me how many hours away do I want to brew. So right now it is, what time is it? It is 9:20. We want this thing to start at 3 a.m. So obviously that is about 6 hours, 5.5 hours. So we're going to set this for 5 hours. Oh, 5.5 hours away. So that should get us, we'll just do 5 hours and 20 minutes. So that should be right at 3 o'clock. Hit that. And now we got a 320 minutes countdown on here. And when that counts down it's actually counting up. When it counts up to those 320 minutes, this thing's going to start the process. I'm going to wake up and it should be near the end of the process and it'll be ready to cool down. Love it. Love it.
And about how long will this take beginning to end?
So this process, and it varies depending on if you do the high efficiency mash. There's a high efficiency mash which that takes it makes it more efficient. So you get a better efficiency out of your grains, and that takes longer because it's a multi-step mash. If you were doing the regular 60-minute mash at single temperature, maybe with one mash out, this brewing process would probably take about 3 hours. But as it stands now with the multiple mash steps, going from cold water to, it's probably going to be about 5 hours. But the beauty is, yeah, the actual brewing of the beer takes longer in this than it would on a normal system. But it's hands off. I'm not touching it. I'm not doing anything. So even if I was doing this during the day, even though you're saying, oh, 5 hours, that's half the day, I'm not messing around with it. I'm upstairs, I'm doing things, I'm cleaning, I'm hanging out. I'm not worried about what's going on here. And let me tell you too, I can check what's going on with my brew online. So I go and I log into Pico and I go to my brew house and it's showing me where my brew is right there online with a graph. It's wonderful. We'll show that to you tomorrow. And so yeah, we'll meet you back here tomorrow, see where the process is, and this guy's ready to brew. Morning, and this thing brewed like a champ throughout the night. No issues, which I never have, so wonderful. I went ahead and dumped the grains and the hops and did a rinse cycle in the machine, which essentially you do some hot water in a bucket and do a rinse cycle to get it rinsed out. I'm actually also later today going to do a cleaning cycle on it, which you do every 3 or 4 beers and it's time, so I'm going to do a cleaning cycle. With that, you put the bottom screen in, you put a little cleaning tablet. You can do a finish tab or tablets that come with it, and then you run and hook the keg back up with some water, and it runs about a 2-hour cleaning cycle. Super easy stuff. So what we're going to do now is, it's done. The wort is still hot. Now we're going to cool it down to pitching temperature and pitch our yeast. So we're going to show you that. And just a FYI, yesterday I failed to put the keg cozy on this. It comes with a little neoprene cozy on it. No big deal. It looks like the temperatures stayed pretty consistent as it always does, and so no issues. But you do want to put the keg seal on. It just helps with efficiency with the heat. Keeps the machine from having to work so hard, I suppose. All right. So what I bought for this machine specifically is an immersion chiller made specifically for kegs, and it's awesome. It's called the Corny Chiller. And we're going to use that today. Again, it's an immersion chiller, and we're going to stick it down in there, run some cold water through it until it gets down to the temperature I want, which is 66, 67, 68 degrees. So I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to I have it sitting in sanitizer, and I'm just going to drop it right on in to this keg. Going to hook it up to my water supply. Going to let some cold water run through there. In the wintertime, it's nice because the water is nice and cold. And then I'm just gonna shake it around a little bit. It works a little better when I just give it a little love. I can probably get this 2 gallons to 2.2 gallons down, hopefully in less than 10 minutes. We're gonna see. Now, so you can run this while attached to the machine, and some people do. So they will have the wort circulating through the machine while this is in here, and it will tell you the temperature on the machine. I don't particularly care to do that. I like once it's done to sit in there, especially for IPAs. I don't want the IPA to run through again and lose any essential aromas or efficiency with the hop. So I like to do it this way. But the one downside is I can't really tell when I'm down to temperature. So really I like to see what the water is coming out of the tube. Initially it's going to be a little warm because it's getting that heat from the wort. You know, it's been sitting a little bit. It's coming out for 69. I want it to be below my pitching temperature, so I know that it's actually cooling completely instead of still coming down to temperature. Hey everybody, so we're back. We got this thing chilled and in the fermenter. Like I said, I was doing less than 2.5 gallons because it was a big beer and I was trying to get it up to a certain original gravity. It ended up being 2.2 gallons in the fermenter, which is what I was shooting for, so it's good. So I did not hit my original gravity. It's the first time I've done this big of a beer in the Zymatic. I was shooting for 9.5 and ended up at 8.9, so I'm hoping this beer will probably end up at 10%, which is perfectly fine. You know, I don't get too caught up on that. But yeah, there it is. It's in the fermenter, about 2.2 gallons. I dropped the yeast in there, 05 Safe Ale, and it's in there ready to go. Starting to bubble already. And anyway, so that's the Zymatic. I love it. It's a great machine for small batches, experimental batches, super easy to use. Like I said, that thing brewed while I was asleep. It was wonderful. Yeah, it's just great. So we're gonna do some other brewing videos on the big rig, and yeah, tune in.